man, let's get into this thing. The Cowboys take on the Washington Commanders this Sunday, 12 noon. Now, normally, I would say to you, boy, this is about to be an NFC East matchup with some sort of implications on winning the division for the Dallas Cowboys, because when we played the Washington Commanders for a very long time, that's what it was. But now when I say those things, that this is going to be a game that keeps the team in contention for the NFC East Division Championship and the possibilities for a home playoff game and a bye and all those great things. And I'm not talking about the Cowboys. I would be talking about the Washington Commanders. And this is a I'm not going to say a pivotal week, because I think most of you, most of the fans have packed up the season. 2 weeks ago, I think a lot of people had packed up their true feelings about this Cowboy team being able to pull this thing together and do anything down the stretch. Now, if you want a little bit of some sunshine on what seems to be a very dark situation in Cowboy Nation, a lot of guys who have been injured are finally making their way back. A couple notable names. Brandon Carr. Excuse me, not Brandon Carr. No, not Brandon Carr. Brandon Carr's been out of here for a long time. Brandon Carr's the last person they bought in free agency. I tell you that much. Get Jerry. Don't be afraid of what you did with Brandon Carr. Brandon Cooks. His 21-day window had opened up for return. Marshawn Nealon, his 21 window day has opened for return. Jerry spoke on the flagship station 105.3 The Fan this week, and he sounded very confidently that all-pro cornerback Deron Bland is making his return this weekend. Now, we've heard that before, and some setbacks came about, so we'll see. But he's supposed to make his return to the lineup for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, does that help this team? Yes, I guess. I mean, anytime you have good players that have been out, getting them back definitely helps out your football team. I think what the Cowboys have to do defensively, because the inability of them to stop the run, to be able to hold their front up and to get pressure in the run game has been more than terrible. So when you add Deron Bland back to the mix, because they have been doing musical chairs at that cornerback spot opposite of Trayvon Diggs. So when Bland comes back, at least you can hold up and say, all right, we're going to go man with Diggs, we're going to go man with Bland, and now we're going to commit another guy to the line of scrimmage in hopes that will be able to stop the run game a little bit. But if you've been listening to the podcast, not just Unfiltered, that's the podcast you should be listening to first. But if you just so happen to be listening to the Micah Parsons podcast, you would have heard Micah Parsons utter the phrase, "This is a damn good team." Now, who am I? To combat the things that Micah Parsons says about this football. Who am I to question a man who is the leader of this defense on this football team? Who am I to question such a man who is a part of this damn good football team? I say that I'm the person who questions these things. But Micah has had a run at it. And I don't know if this is, I don't know. Like I'm trying to decipher, because there's a couple parts to me when it comes to this. There is a part of me that says, way to go, Micah. There is a part of me that says, way to go, Micah. And I'm not being facetious. I'm not being a smart aleck. I'm being serious. Because what else is he supposed to say? I think Micah tries, and I think he tries to lean into the leadership role. I think he tries. I think sometimes he misses the mark with some of the things that he tries to say to be in that leadership role. If I'm coach, if I'm owner, if I'm GM, if I'm president, I want Micah Parsons to say these things. I want him to come out and talk glowingly about this football team and to say things like, I know the score may not show it, but we are a damn good football team. And then there's another part of me that says Micah's becoming what he claims to hate. You see, he claims to hate the clickbait narrative. Micah claims to hate people doing and saying things just for the hell of it, for the engagement. But then I remember that he too has a podcast to sell. Micah has been named the president of football content, right? It's football content over at Bleacher Report. So within that, he understands, if he's attending the meetings with the marketing department and all the folks behind the scenes, then he has to understand that there is a component to this podcast thing where you have to say things to populate engagement. That you have to be not necessarily controversial, but conversational. You have to put out things and statements and quotes that will shake the table a little bit. That will get folks to sometimes roll their eyes, to get people like me to do exactly what I'm doing now and talk about it on their platform. Now, my platform, man, you say, hey, your platform's not bigger than ESPN. Your platform's not bigger than FS1. And your platform is not bigger than X or Instagram or TikTok. And sure, not yet. But it's the engagement that I am always reminded of when I hear him talk. And then there's a part of me also that believes that maybe there is a little bit of delusion. And I don't know if it's bad delusion, because you have to somehow, some way defend it. What's being put on film, what people are watching by the millions at TV, the thousands in the stadium. There may be sometimes you're so deep in the forest you miss the trees. And I think sometimes when you get so deep into what you're doing, you do create this level of delusion of what really is going on around you. Especially when you're the key component in it. It's different to be Josh Butler, who is a player, but not a player. Josh Butler is not, and this is no Josh Butler, this is no knock to you. I'm just using your name as a reference. Josh Butler isn't the name that's going into the headlines. Josh Butler isn't going to have a when the games are played on TV, he's going to have a graphic come up with his name on it. Josh Butler isn't going to have any of that. Micah is. He's a part of that conversation when you talk about the Dallas Cowboys in its totality as a team. So those three parts, I waffle in between those three parts, but nonetheless, it leads me here, talking about it, engaging it, giving it more legs, giving it wind beneath the wings for it to carry on into the ether of the universe of sports media talk. But it's tough for me. And I'm not saying that I am the ultimate decision maker or film watcher, but it's tough for someone who I have knowledge of the game. I trust my knowledge. I trust my eyes. I trust what I'm seeing. So for me, it's tough to watch what I've watched for the last 10 weeks when this team, because Micah's conversation is that, the injuries. And I'm like, boy, I watched and I covered and I studied what the Saints did to you. And you were fully healthy at that point in time. Like, and Micah talked in that podcast, and he's like, besides us giving up the first 2 touchdowns in the first half, and, we only gave up 2 or 3 field goals in the second half. I'm like, that's 23 points. I don't know if that's a damn good team. Giving up 23 points. Like, you're still giving up touchdowns. And we're not even talking about the ones that got called back. So, a damn good team needs to show up this Sunday. That I do know. Because the Cowboys take on the Washington Commanders. And as I've been watching film this week, I'll start defensively. Of course, you're going to have to start in the trenches. Joe Witt Jr. is the defensive coordinator. And it's not the defensive coordinator where he's like given the title, but Dan Quinn still calls the defense. No, it's Joe Witt's. And if you remember, I've said before, I think that they want to win this one for for Dan Quinn. But make no mistake about it. I was laughing with Newey Scruggs today. If you guys don't know Newey, then Google him. And we were talking about how Joe Witt is going to look at this game. Like Joe Witt, remember that scene? Tay, this is where you got to cut that scene from Remember the Titans and put it on while I'm talking, like right next to the screen. Like that's how that's. They will? They'll copyright us for that? Oh, okay. Then don't do that. We don't want to get flagged for that. But remember that scene in Remember the Titans? I forget what was the White's coach name? I know Coach Boone was Denzel. I don't remember who the white coach was. But the white coach, he runs the defense, right? And so he pulls out Petey, because Petey was giving him some back talk, and he put the white boy in there. And he looks at them and he says, I don't want to give them another yard. I want them, he's like, if they get past the line of scrimmage, I'm going to take all of y'all out. I want them to remember the day that they played the Titans. Remember that scene? Coach Yost. Coach Yost took Petey out, put old boy back in there. And he was like, I want them to remember, you better not give up another yard. If they get past the line of scrimmage, I'm taking all of you out. I want them to remember the day that they played the Titans. That's Joe Witt. Joe Witt's going to tell his defense, I don't want them to gain another yard. We're going to blitz them and come after them. And we are going to wear Cooper Rush / Trey Lance out. Because if you remember, Joe Witt, who came over here with Mike McCarthy, was supposed to be given a defensive coordinator job. But Dan Quinn had the job, and then he got played around with that. And after Dan Quinn left, he was thinking that his boy Michael from Pittsburgh was going to put him in that defensive coordinator position, and then Jerry came in and said, "Nope, I want Mike Zim." And so Joe Witt left, and he went to be with Dan Quinn in Washington, and so he's going to come to this game with a little bit of vindictive spirit. And they're pretty good up front. They're not great. But the Payne kid is up front. The linebackers fly around, man. I always tell you guys, when you got single digits up front, always keep an eye out for them. Keep an eye out for number 4. My coach used to say this back in the day. I'm showing my age, but some of you will understand this. You'll get it. Some of you won't. But there used to be a phrase that coaches used, that he was a football playing Jesse. Now, I ain't talking about me, but it was a phrase. That means like, this is a football playing dude. That's Frankie Louvu. He was a pickup from Carolina, Frankie Louvu. You're going to hear that name a lot on Sunday. Frankie Louvu, Frankie Louvu, Frankie Louvu, number 4. He flies around. He flies around. And with the Cowboys in this offensive line, I don't know who's going to be available for them. I don't know if Tyler Smith and Zach Martin will be playing. Terrence Steele has been very bad this year. Cooper Beebe's been okay. And Tyler Guyton has been Tyler Guyton. Take it for what it is. He ain't been good. So this offensive line will be compromised. And I just believe that Joe Witt and Dan Quinn, they're going to have that remember the Titan moment. They're going to blitz you. They're going to come after you. And I think, I don't know if I said it here, but if I did, forgive me from repeating it. If I didn't, get ready to hear it for the first time. If Dan Quinn is who we think he is, if you remember how people gravitated to him, go read the quotes from Micah today. Go read the quotes from Micah today. He still talks to Dan Quinn. Bi-weekly or a couple times a week. Dan Quinn helped Micah's family get tickets to the game. So there is a relationship and a kinship that Dan Quinn builds with his players. I don't know if it's a backwards hat. I don't know that he wears a Jordan. I don't know that he likes rap music. Whatever it is, he has that bond that unites him with players. And if we believed of that when he was here, then we have to believe that's who he is in Washington. He has injected a newfound hope. He has given and delivered hopium to the Washington Commanders fans. He has taken that franchise that has dealt with Dan Snyder and has dealt with mediocrity and buffoonery and all of the stadium falling down and everything in between, and he's given them life. He's made them football relevant again. He's given them pride to put on their Commanders gear. He's given them clout to get on the internet and boast about. He's put together a team that is worthy of conversation outside of jokes. You don't think those players are rallying around him? You don't think Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu, Payne, he brought over Lattimore and Baptiste or Bapjuice, whatever his name is, and you don't think those guys are rallying around Dan Quinn? You'd be a fool if you don't. So you already have the intrigue or dislike just because this is Dallas week in Washington. That's what they call it. This is what the fans call it. This is what they build up to. And now they have a realistic chance that they will probably win this game because of how good their season has been going. If you don't think those players are ready to not only win for themselves, but win one for Coach Quinn, Joe Witt Jr., they in their ear. Micah even said in his interview today, he said, yeah, I know Coach DQ is probably getting them all riled up, telling them they got to fight 12 rounds and all the other stuff, his whole little spiel. Remember, CeeDee Lamb said a week ago when he spoke to the media, he said, teams want to embarrass us. No different here. Washington wants to embarrass you. Washington is... You know how it's the girl that lets everybody get a little piece, and then it come to you and she's like, nah, I want you to be my boyfriend. Washington's like, nah, I'm getting a piece just like everybody else got a piece. Washington looking around, they saying, oh boy, everybody else y'all played that was good, put belt to tail. Those teams got right playing you. The good teams, they got right. They set records. What was ailing them before was fixed after they left playing the Dallas Cowboys. You think Washington ain't looking at this thing like that? There used to be a time where you went to Washington and there was a pro-Cowboys crowd in Washington. I don't think they're selling their tickets now. I could be wrong. But I don't think people are paying money right now to travel. Christmas right around the corner. Folks ain't trying to spend that bread to go watch their team most likely get the doorknobs beat off of them. They can keep that for Santa Claus. Dan Quinn is going to have, Joe Witt is going to have this defense ready to go. And there's going to have to be answers that they have offensively, the Cowboys, and I don't know where the answers come from. They have yet to establish a run game. If the plan is offensively for Cooper Rush to have another 55 attempt passing game, the Washington Commanders may have 6 sacks in the first half. I'm just telling you. I'm telling you this cannot be the plan. Now, it could be the plan if you're trying to tank. If you're trying to organically tank this thing, Mike McCarthy, Michael from Pittsburgh, then sure. Have at it. But I told you guys my plan. My timeline. Cooper Rush plays the first half of this game. Game gets out of hand by halftime, third quarter-ish. Insert Trey Lance. If 55 passing attempts is in the game plan this week, Cooper Rush needs to take out a separate insurance plan because he might die. He might get killed in this game. If 55 times, he'll be sacked. He'll be sacked 6 times in the first half. That's just what I believe from what I saw on film. I seen the way that they got after Russell Wilson, how they got after Jalen Hurts, and we don't have an offensive line that's better than theirs. We don't. Especially if you're not, and what's most likely you're probably going to be without Zach Martin. You might maybe be without Tyler Smith, maybe, but he won't be 100%. You pad up and goes Terrence Steele, that's gonna be a disaster. So, and for the Cowboys defense, I know people are thinking Scary Terry. I know people are thinking Jaden Daniels. And here's the thing. And so Jaden Daniels, he's done this season. He's taken off. Then he had the rib injury, and he tailed. But now he's on that verge of kind of bringing this game. Remember, he was in the MVP conversation, which I didn't mind because I understand that football is fluid. And he was playing as good as all of the MVP candidates, the Lamar Jackson, the Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allen. He had the completion percentage, the touchdown, the yardage, all that. He was doing it, the record. Then he tailed off. Then he out of the conversation. That's fine. He's in the conversation of Rookie of the Year, but he's starting to pick up his game a little bit. Now, you can still rush him. You can still get him off his spot. He does have the ability to break containment and get outside. And if he gets outside, you're gonna need Damari and Overshown speed to catch him. But he's not the X factor for me. The one guy who I think gonna carve up the Dallas Cowboys. It's not Scary Terry. It's not Zach Ertz. It damn sure ain't Noah Brown. It ain't Brian Robinson. Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler is going to catch the ball out of the backfield between 7 and 10 times. And he is going to put this defense in a blender. I'm telling you. I'm not saying that Brian Robinson's not going to get off. I'm not saying that Scary Terry. But Scary Terry, I don't think he's going to get off. After, I think, Trayvon's rookie season where he kind of worked Trayvon a little bit. Trayvon's been his daddy. Trayvon has been, and I'm a fan of Scary Terry. I like him as a player a lot. But Trayvon has been Scary Terry's daddy ever since that 1 year. It has been El Loco. He has put the clamps on Scary Terry. Noah Brown doesn't concern me. Ertz does. Because if there's anybody that kills the Cowboys from a tight end position, it's Zach Ertz. But Austin Eckler, he's the one. He is the one. And the way that Cliff Kingsbury calls this offense, he does the motion. He has guys moving in the backfield. When they get into that, you'll see them at times. They'll get into that pro set. They're in shotgun. Brian Robinson is one side, Austin Eckler the other side, and then they kind of they do this RPO where guys are crossing and this like that, guards are pulling. It's very confusing. It's confusing to watch. So I know the Cowboys who have struggled with the lineman assignments and reading keys, I know that they will have trouble with it. But Austin Eckler catching the football as a receiver, whether it's a screen, whether it's he's leaking out, whether it's option route, whether it's a Texas route or arrow route, whether it's flare, whether they put him out on the route. Remember I said that. Austin Eckler receiving. That's going to be one of the key figures. But I just don't see a path where the Cowboys are good enough to win this football game. And I see a very motivated team looking to get off of I believe they're on a 2-game losing streak. Look that up for me, Tay. I believe they're on a 2-game losing streak. Then they lost to Pittsburgh and Philadelphia the last 2 games. And they're looking to right the ship. And the Cowboys feel like the get-right game. 1 point loss, yeah. And they had their chances against Philadelphia. And let me tell you something as I watched some film, and I hope it doesn't happen. Pittsburgh saw something on film, and they tried to run a fake punt. Now, Pittsburgh fake punt actually worked. They threw it to a wide open gunner. He just dropped it. Like it literally hit him in the chest, and he dropped it. Now, Bones, the last 2 out of 3 games, you tried a fake punt, and it's been unsuccessful. Let it be. Bones, don't try it no more. Don't do it. I know you saw Pittsburgh film. I know you saw those guys and what they did and all that stuff, and it looked good and it looked sweet. Don't do it. Let a sleeping dog lie. You have been unsuccessful in it. Please do not try it again. I think the damn good team that Michael was talking about takes a damn good loss this week. I see 28-10. 28-10. The Cowboys lose to the Washington Commanders in Washington. I'm thankful that it is a noon game. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. The Cowboys still got 2 night games. And one of the night games can't be flexed. No, they can't flex the night game for December 9th. They can't flex it. You want to know why they can't flex it? They can't flex it because there's a Simpsons, I don't even know, show that's showing simulcast. It's a Bengals one. And so they've already done the graphics and the voiceovers and all that kind of stuff. Oh, no, that one you probably can. But this next one is coming up, you can't.